I really want to talk about Katy Perry today. I have wanted to make a video on what has been going on with Katy Perry and public reaction to her as of recent for a long time, but I kind of wanted to talk about it from less of like an attacking Katy Perry approach as what I'm seeing a lot on the internet and actually like having a conversation as to like why this may have happened. Again, I've been a little bit delayed in making this because I didn't want it to seem like I was jumping on what seems like every social media flooded with like viral hate posts about Katy Perry. But again, I wanted to have it from the perspective of, how did we get here? What happened? And also how much of it is like fake, you know what I mean? I hate saying fake news but how much of it is, fake news? Because with Katy Perry, I made a video yesterday and in it, I was talking about how, artists aren't selling out their venues anymore. You know what I mean? Like Beyonce, Katy Perry. Like I was listing, recent tours where I'm seeing these big scandals that they're not filling stadiums or arenas. And someone was like, Adam, this isn't entirely true for Katy because, like Katy is doing, shows where she's selling. And that also can be said for Beyonce as well. But I just think that with the era of tickets being bought by bots, it's very easy for stadiums to go empty even if fans can't afford the ridiculous prices. So I'd never mean that as a drag, and I didn't mean it in yesterday's video, but a lot of people were like, Adam, Katy is actually selling on this recent tour, which is what makes this like hate train, I guess, which is going on right now, more interesting. And I thought about it, and me and my friend Em are actually going to Katy Perry's show on her current tour, the one that is being so memed on. We're actually going to the London show in October because my friend Em is a huge Katy Perry fan. And I also really, really, really loved Katy Perry. And I grew up with Katy Perry. And obviously, I haven't being a quote unquote fan of her, like a stan, in a very long time. I kind of dropped off during the Smile era, but I was a big Katy Perry fan. And there's just been so many interesting things that I'm seeing about Katy recently, and I'm sure you're all seeing. Let's start with what's happening right now. Her current tour, I think the Lifetime's tour, and it seems that every day there's a video going viral from it where it'll get like so many likes, so many quotes, and new news articles are being made, like making fun of the tour, making fun of Katy or whatever. A lot of people are referring to the tour. Words that stand out are like cringe or embarrassing or flop, like these kind of words that like people will say as drags. And what's interesting to me is, are there parts of Katy Perry's recent tour that look incredibly fucking cringy? Abso-fucking-lutely, okay? And what's interesting though to me about this is I went back and revisited the Katy Perry Part of Me movie, which I loved whenever I was younger. And that tour is as, cheesy and cringy the way Katy's acting on stage as the Lifetime's tour. So Katy Perry has never changed. But I think that that's the reason that Katy Perry gets so much hate, speaking specifically with performances, is that she has never changed. You know what I mean? Like, one of the reasons that I fell off being a huge Katy Perry fan was because I just felt that there was no progression in her music or her career, and it just felt very stagnant. Again, there's another thing that I want to focus on when it comes to her tour, which I believe is, getting her a lot of backlash right now, which is that damn space trip. That trip that pisses me off so much, of just a bunch of like millionaires, we're going into space, we are so rich, it's just so out of touch. And I saw this post online that was like a little cartoon, I think it was in a magazine, and it was like this family struggling to pay their bills or feed their kid, and they were like, oh, we can just pick up another job, like it's fine, we can work 3 jobs. And then they hear this noise, they look out the window, and it's like all these millionaires going up into space being so carefree, and it just is like so out of touch from the state of the world right now, with climate change, with just a lot of things that are going on in the world. And I do believe that Katy Perry being involved in that was one of the worst things she could have done for her career. Like, having Katy Perry go up in that damn fucking rocket and showing a little daisy, you know, for her kid, and like, and the fact they were only up there for like 30 seconds or whatever it was, like, it was, and then Katy Perry coming down and being like, oh my God, being up in space for like 30 seconds made me appreciate Earth more than anything. And I'm like, thank God, because you just, you know, ruined it a little bit more with your little 30-second trip with, you know, the climate. So I believe that the space thing happening was the worst timing for her to immediately go on tour. Also, on Katy Perry's tour, another thing that I want to focus on when it comes to like valid criticism she's getting is the use of AI throughout the show. Now, Katy Perry fans are defending this, saying, oh, well, the entire purpose of the show is, you know, telling the story about like artificial and stuff. It's like literally one of the songs. Yeah, but that is fine, but AI is such slop and is so just horrifying, and specifically when it's being used to render huge interludes, you know, or backgrounds for shows. Also, just taking artists from artists, and like, Katy Perry's an artist and she should appreciate hiring other artists instead of cheapening out. So there are things with this current Katy Perry, you know, hate train that's going on that I do believe are valid. I think the AI criticism is incredibly valid. I think the space criticism is valid. And I think as well, the show is cringy. And the show is cringy because Katy Perry has always been an artist that embraced cringe. And that was always what was so great about her. You know, years and years ago when she was, you know, the Candy Canes and stuff like that, like, it was camp and it was great or whatever. But when we see Katy Perry 20 years later and we're getting the same shit, it just feels like, oh, there's nothing new and exciting anymore. And that also is a conversation to do with specifically the criticism that pop girls face, which is like having to constantly reinvent yourself. But unfortunately, with the system that has been created with fast, you know, churning pop artists, it has, from an audience standpoint, made the general public forget other artists whenever other ones are at pressure of reinventing themselves. It's an evil, 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 vicious, you know, cycle. So yeah, I think the things with the tour, you know, are really interesting. But I think that there is like a general kind of dislike for Katy Perry online right now. And that is not to say that that carries on into in you know, real life person, because we've got to acknowledge that like social media hate trains mean nothing in the long run, because Katy Perry is on stage filling those, you know, stadiums or filling those arenas. And I promise you, the people that go to those shows have a great fucking time. Like, whether they find it cringy or whatever, she's got the hits, she's got the music, she's got, you know what I mean? Like, it's all great. And you have a good night out. So this strictly is just like online stuff, but I find it really interesting and I want to talk about it. But this does not carry over that much in real life. Okay, we've got to acknowledge that. Okay. Another thing, just to note, as kind of the final thing of like, as of recent, why there's a constant dislike for Katy Perry is her comeback. You know, I kind of want to go through her career and talk about different things that are really interesting that have led us to this point with the online reactions she's gotten. But when Katy Perry had her last couple albums, you know, she had... Let me actually go through her Spotify because I don't want to mess this up. I know the names. I just want to make sure that I get the orders, okay? Because there's a story here, right? So Katy Perry had her debut album, One of the Boys, in 2008, then had Teenage Dream, literally like the biggest, greatest pop album ever. God. Teenage Dream, and that era lasted from 2010 until 2012 when she released the Complete Confection album with the extended. Prism in 2023, or 2013, sorry, with like Roar, and then Witness in 2017, Smile in 2020, and then 143 in 2024. Now, what's just so interesting is Katy Perry was on a career steady upwards. You know, One of the Boys, Teenage Dream, biggest album ever, She's Everywhere, and there is a little bit of like oversaturation of Katy Perry, which does happen to any celebrity if you see them too much or whatever. She released a lot of songs from that album. We love them, but, you know, we are, you know, so used to asking for more, more, more. So when labels and artists give us more, 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 eventually people kind of get a little bit, they need a separation. But that's not to say that Katy Perry, lost public interest, because in 2013 she released Prism, which, by the way, is, I would say, her greatest album ever. It is so incredible. Roar, Legendary Lovers, Walking on Air, Dark Horse. Like, Katy Perry was at, this steady career high, 2012, and then 2013, I would say, was a huge year for her. The Roar tour as well, or the Prismatic World tour, that was huge. But then from 2013 until 2017, we don't have a Katy Perry album. She takes time away, right? She comes back with the album. Now, whenever you take a big career break and come back, people will be so fascinated as to what you do. But there is a lot of pressure because you've been away for a while. So people don't know if you've reinvented or what, Lady Gaga comes to mind. She will do a pop era and then country and then, jazz. You never know what you're going to get, right? So with Witness, Katy Perry came back. She shaved her head. And what's really crazy and always really pisses me off is I do believe that Katy Perry shaving her head is a big reason as to why the public started to turn on her. And it's so frustrating and stupid because I don't know why that is. But if you ask anyone in the Katy Perry fandom, they will link it back to that moment. And it's very reminiscent of Miley Cyrus Bangers when she shaved her head as well, but the music was really great with the Bangers album, and the controversies were so big that people were still interested in Miley past that. I think Katy Perry doing it had a different reaction because she released this album, and the biggest mistake she ever did was calling it, I think it was purposeful pop or something, right? Where she was, talking about that the music was going to be a little bit political. And when she releases the album and the album is just surface level pop for the main part, it pissed off a lot of people that were intrigued as to what purposeful pop means for Katy Perry. Now, this fucking album, in my opinion, is so fucking good. This Witness album is so good. I love practically every song on this album. Chained to the Rhythm is one of the greatest fucking songs ever. I love the deluxe. I really love this. I love this era as well, but it's really sad because in this era, it was very clear that Katy was very depressed because it was the first time that she dealt with public backlash, really, like the public not being interested in what she was giving them, and she very clearly appeared very depressed during the Witness tour as well. So we go on, and from 2017 until she releases Smile in 2020, she released this album when she was pregnant, and I actually feel like the rollout was kind of cute. She was doing like live streams with her fans. It was during COVID. She was kind of, linking it in with like the baby and stuff. It was cute, right? But between 2017 and 2020, which I want to get into a little bit later, Katy Perry was doing like side hustle activities that weren't strictly focused on music, but she was in front of us as the public. And she started wearing black wigs again. She started going back to the very Katy Perry that the public knew and loved, which was an image. It was the Katy Perry with jet black hair, jet black long hair, and, like cunty little outfits, whatever. So then the public started really coming around to her again, and I don't know if it was I think it was after the Smile era, after she had her baby. God. Also, I will say that this album, Smile, is cute. It's cute, but it's just not good. Like, I love Never Really Over, but I don't really associate that to be a part of the album for some reason. Cry About It Later, great song. Teary Eyes, great song. Daisies, okay. Resilient, okay. Not the End of the World, okay. Smile, terrible. Champagne Problems, okay. Tucked, okay. Harley's in Hawaii, one of the greatest songs ever. Only Love, whatever. What Makes a Woman, I'm not listening to it. The album is okay, but I'm not going out of my way to listen to it like I would have with Prism, Teenage Dream, One of the Boys, right? So, when she came back with Smile, honestly, there were so many artists releasing amazing music in 2020, and we started to see a kind of segue from bubblegum pop, which is what Katy Perry was giving us, to more of like the folklore style, you know what I mean? Like Taylor Swift's Folklore, that kind of music was huge, and the more like somber pop. So no one really wanted uplifting pop music. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and it wasn't really the vibe. We were all, in our houses, we wanted that solemn kind of music, and that was where I think that a rebrand for Katy Perry it could have been so great that Taylor Swift reinvented her career with Folklore and Evermore and what she did during the pandemic, and I think it was just an incredibly smart move. Everyone's locked inside, let's make the music more intimate, you know what I mean? I would love to make a video on that, kind of the Taylor Swift folklore Evermore, because it reinvented her career. So between 2020 and 143, Katy Perry's recent album, hype has never been bigger. I'm online. Hype has never been bigger for an album than it was between 2020 and 2024 for Katy Perry. She had fully embraced being Katy Perry again. You know, in Witness, she said she didn't want to be Katy Perry anymore. She wanted to be Katherine Hudson. Between 2020 and 2024, it seemed that she developed this passion. She wanted so desperately to be on that throne again, that pop throne. She wanted it bad. And it was so clear to see. And it was kind of exciting as an audience member, because it was like, oh my God, we're going to experience another great Katy Perry era. And she started teasing this album, which she was teasing it under KP6. And hype had never been bigger. She looked incredible. She was giving us a version of herself that seemed very happy, very excited to be in the industry again. And the way that the music was being, you know, reviewed, and she was hyping it up, like, it was genuinely like we were holding on for like, oh my God, this is going to be bigger than any Katy Perry album or cycle ever. Let me take a sip. Oh my God, not share Diet Coke with your bro. Hey. Okay, so let me take a sip of this. So the reviews are that this is going to be the greatest Katy Perry album of all time. The teaser for Woman's World drops. Her lead single from her album, 143. Also, I think the name 143, just not good for an album. I don't think, like, numbered albums are really that. Like, give us a good word or something like that, right? So Woman's World starts being teased, and people are very excited for it. Like, oh my God, it's going to be cunty. And then, produced by Dr. Luke, drops. People realize and figure out very quickly, it seemed that within 10 minutes, the entire fucking Stan Twitter knew, this album was going to be produced, or this song, by Dr. Luke. Dr. Luke, someone who worked very closely with Katy Perry during those golden pop eras, was now going to be working on this song and maybe on the album. Now, if you do not know, Dr. Luke and the Kesha situation, that is something that I want to dive into in another video, because I want to really dive into that motherfucker. But, you know, Kesha had spoken up about Dr. Luke R-wording her, and anyone who works with Dr. Luke after knowing the full Kesha Dr. Luke lawsuit, it's just disgusting. And Katy Perry chooses this big moment. We've been building this up for 4 years. Woman's World drops. It's produced by Dr. Luke. Immediate backlash from the online space. Immediate. Like, how can you be this dumb? And then there was a portion of Katy Perry fans, specifically, that were not happy with her working with Dr. Luke, but were excited for, oh my God, it's going to be like OG Katy Perry again. Which is such a fucked up thing that they were willing to be like, oh, I'm still excited for it because maybe they'll give us what they used to give us. And then the song dropped, and the song was terrible. And those Katy Perry fans that were clinging on dropped off too. And it was just such a slap in the face that she would work with Dr. Luke, but then also that the song is so goddamn terrible. The song is cringy, terrible, not good. And Katy has some bangers on her other albums, even the recent ones, and she has well-written songs, she has well-produced songs. This is so cheap and tacky and just not good. Music video comes out, Trisha Paytas is in it, crazy. Not good. So because of that, there was then no hype for the album. And ultimately the album comes out, and the general public just, they had dropped off. So that then means that the album comes out, no one cares anymore, and the only people that do care are giving backlash for it. And then the tour, the space, this is painting a picture of Katy Perry now, right? And kind of what's happening now. But again, I just kind of want to talk about, there was a point we got here, and I made some notes, which I want to get to, okay? So, I want to take this in order. So, in my notes, I've kind of talked about Katy's peak, which was arguably, 2008 to 2014, because that was, one of the boys, having I Kissed a Girl, and then the Teenage Dream era being the biggest pop era probably of all time, 5 number ones, and it was just such a big cultural moment. It was a cultural moment. It was a cultural reset. And pop, God, I wish we could go back to how pop was just, it was the girl. I would watch X Factor every single weekend. Nothing brought the nation together as much as X Factor or like American Idol or something like that. Watching it every fucking week. Oh, God. Specifically UK X Factor culture. I know there's a lot of bitches watching in the UK right now. Please, if you're watching right now, tell me about your experience watching X Factor UK. Watching One Direction's rise to fame in real time, witnessing Cher Lloyd, my favorite was Stacey Solomon, Ollie Murs, like, it was so cultural. Cheryl's outfits every week. Insane. So, again, I think the way to describe Teenage Dream is honestly like pop perfection. Pop perfection is what I would say. So obviously she was kind of in a peak from, not kind of, she was the girl. 2008, 2014, and then 2014 until 2017 was when things really started to take a bad turn. We had her feud with Taylor Swift is a big thing that really started to ramp up again in, the 2015, or I think it started actually, yeah. So basically what happened there, I have notes on that. I just want to condense it. So with Taylor Swift and Katy Perry, Katy had dancers for her California Dreams tour, right? And when the dancers auditioned for Taylor's Red tour, they got hired. So midway through the tour, they left Taylor to go join the Katy Perry tour instead, okay? So Taylor saw this as a sabotage, and that, like, Katy was trying to, like, kill her career and stuff like that she had, like, stolen her dancers. And then that was Taylor Swift's, like, Bad Blood era, where she does that song that's about Katy Perry. She gets all the female artists in it, all the celebrities, and it was Taylor versus Katy. And really, basically everyone took Taylor's side. She was at the peak with 1989, another pop perfection, and Katy was just exiting her pop perfection era, so people were going to the new shiny thing with Taylor. And Taylor also arguably has a much stronger fan base even then. So anyways, Bad Blood comes out and the internet goes crazy, and Stan, grips were just attacking each other every single day. But ultimately, Taylor came out kind of the one who won the most from that. Katy responded, tweeting, "Watch out for the Regina George in sheep's clothing." And then Katy ended up firing back in 2017 with Swish Swish on Witness, which is the swish swish bish, another one in the casket, which the song is fun, but again, is not good if you really think about it. And so ultimately, that song got clowned on. The music video was terrible. And again, more people started becoming Taylor fans. And actually, there was a big percentage of people that became Taylor fans that were Katy fans. So Katy had everything going against her. And ultimately, obviously, in 2018, Taylor was on the Reputation tour, and Katy sent her like an actual olive branch, and Taylor tweeted about it. And then in 2019, Katy and Taylor were in Taylor's You Need to Calm Down music video, and they made up. But still, Taylor came out looking very good in that, and Katy really didn't at all. Katy lost a lot from that. She lost a lot of online support, and that's where things start going messy. And then in 2017, when she comes out with the Purposeful Pop, people just weren't here for it anymore, and she was doing live streams where she was saying really just bizarre things, and public were starting to get a little bit exhausted of Katy Perry, which is interesting because seriously, from about 2017 until, 2020, there was just a lot of exposure of Katy Perry. This is when she was like building up, perception of her again. She did American Idol, but she was seen a lot in the public, and not a lot of it had to do about music. So people really did start to forget about Katy. Hello. People really did start to forget about Katy Perry, the artist, and started thinking of her more as just like an American Idol judge. And I don't know. Also, being a judge in American Idol, like, nowadays isn't the coolest thing anymore. It was the same whenever Ariana Grande did The Voice. I think when an artist becomes a judge on those shows, I just think it's so fucking cringy. And it just looks like, wow, you need money. Which, again, they're being paid so much for it, but it just, let me be a hater. It literally looks cheap as hell. So obviously she did American Idol. Witness really flopped. She was so unhappy during the tour. Smile Era was the album she released in the pandemic, and it was like a critical flop. No traction. No one cared. Katy seemed to drop it very quickly as well. But again, some great music, never really over from that time. And again, I just think that during this time, people really started to look at Katy as like a bubblegum pop artist, and people didn't want that anymore. Again, there were some really interesting things that happened in the public eye about Katy Perry. I'm pretty sure I wrote this down, that she was like endorsing NFTs at a time. There was a lot of really interesting drama that happened with American Idol as well, which was something that kind of like helped her career, with people looking at her, you know, in a really great way. And then there was drama with her leaving the show. And then she did a Vegas residency, which, I mean, the Vegas residency, you know, it really made no noise. It was called Play, and it looked really fun, and it was so much better than, you know, the Witness tour. And she seemed very, you know, carefree on stage, which was great. It was very Katy Perry. It was very camp. There were big, you know, there was a big toilet. There's a big shit would run around the stage. A big chair, big rocking thing, rocking horse. Like, it was fun. It was fun. But it was very Katy Perry. It was very, you know, safe Katy Perry. So it didn't make a lot of noise, but that wasn't any bad things. You know, I think it still brought a lot of revenue to Vegas. And that's all that really matters. I think it sold a lot of tickets. That's great. It was a very safe move for her career, and probably made her a lot of money, and kind of actually was probably very good for her career, because, you know, she looked like Katy Perry. She was acting like Katy Perry, and it was very steady and slow, but I think hype kind of built that, like, oh, Katy Perry is coming back to, like, be Katy Perry again. And then whenever Woman's World and stuff happened, it just was an incredible letdown. And I had some final notes here that between the Taylor feud, the rollout of the Witness era, a lot of bad PR choices, and Katy Perry's kind of stagnant approach to her career, I just wonder if she can have any longevity past this point. Obviously her songs are so great that she will stand the test of time, but I mean, just with new music. Final closing points. I believe that there are people on Katy Perry's team that are actively sabotaging her. There is no way that she is surrounded by people, specifically gay people, that are advising her to do the career moves that she's doing and telling her that they're going to work out well. Either she has no gays on that team, or she, like, and is just with like middle-aged white men or something, or else she's being sabotaged by her team. There are too many things just going wrong. So I would love to know your opinion on Katy Perry and the decline of Katy Perry, what's going on with her right now. I would love to know your thoughts, because I find it incredibly... Oh my god, wait, I'm not even done. Sorry. I can't not acknowledge the Perry Act, which is a big thing as well. The Perry Act, Congressman Adam Schiff introduced the Perry Act, named not in honor of Katy Perry, but a very pointed acronym following the media storm around the case. The act would require a 72-hour grace period and mental competency checks for elderly sellers when selling high-value real estate. It's essentially a direct response to situations like the one with Westcott versus Perry. Now, this is a situation where Katy Perry got a lot of backlash for, like serious backlash for. People were accusing her of like elder abuse, because she basically got, hold on, where was it again? I have it right here. It was crazy. In 2020, Katy Perry and her fiancé, Orlando Bloom, bought a $15 million home from an 80-something-year-old man named Carl Westcott. Carl, who suffers from Huntington's disease and was on painkillers after surgery, claimed he did not understand he was signing to sell the property. Shortly after the deal, he tried to, get the sale gone, saying he was mentally unfit at the time, but Katy and Orlando's legal team fought to enforce the sale, arguing the contract was binding. The case blew up, and then the Perry Act was introduced, and Katy Perry was accused of elder abuse, and that was in 2020. So that, again, was in the lead up to the fucking what we have now. I don't know. Very, very, very weird. She is being advised so wrong, but also, like, maybe she's not a good person. Who knows? We don't know these people. Need to know your thoughts, though. Talk to me down below. See you very soon, and goodbye.